Welcome to The Average Christian. This is 2.0 with Zach, Clayton, Maggie. Exactly. So we're talking about Jesus walking on water and Peter going out to meet him. And you had something to kick this off with.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a thought. One woke up in the middle of the night, actually, but I thought it was an interesting illustration. I think it sounded more interesting in my head than it does out loud, but it's still kind of cool because this account kind of deals with, or it can deal a lot with, distractions. And I had this dream that I was reading the side of one of the boxes for the portable communion cups, and it said on the side of that, it was talking about communion in general, and it was saying that this emblem is here to help you see the inside of the church window. And at first you're like, well, that don't make sense. but then if you think about it, if you're in a church building that does have windows, it's very easy to sit there and stare out that window and watch whatever it is go by. And that communion really brings you and focuses you in and helps you to stop looking through that window and stay inside the church building.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I thought, that's kind of interesting. I have to write that down.
So you jumped up in the middle of the night?
3:33 in the morning, I jumped up and made a note.
It's a sign from Jesus.
That's what I told him. I said, so the Lord spoke to you and he didn't speak to me?
He
I'm
spoke
offended.
directly to me.
Yeah. And he said something weird and I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Jeez, a little. Oh, focus. See, I was thinking that you told me that was like a true story. I forgot that it was a dream.
No, it was a dream, man. Yeah.
And where's this written in the dream?
It's on the side of the box for those portable communion cups.
I got you.
Yeah. That we're all using. Well, we're using here now, all the time. But
right.
Yeah. I thought, well, that's kind of cool. They need to write that on the side of those boxes, actually.
Or just hand it out with little slips to everybody.
Yeah.
That way everybody reads it.
Make sure it says C. Stewart.
Exactly. I want the credit.
That's even though God told me at 3:33. Yeah, man. And this whole thing is about focus, and that's a tough. I mean, everybody's gonna have different opinions, so I'll just throw mine out there and stop hitting the table. But the worship service is interesting because that's not in the Bible, but is like we really burn through it now. Well, at least white folks do. But we burn through it, and so the Lord's Supper ends up taking up, what would you say, maybe 7-10 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's so difficult to focus in and hone in on just thinking about Jesus and his death on the cross. Because especially if you're a preacher and you're about to speak, or if you're leading singing, or if you're just the regular average person, I don't know about you guys, I find my mind wandering all over the place.
Yeah. Most of it, well, I'm running the live streams and audio, so there's a lot of concentration going on there, switching scenes and changing mics and
right.
All that too. So it's a little bit more difficult, but in some ways it's not, because I have to really pay attention. I have to pay attention to visual and audio cues from the person that's in the front. So I think that probably helps me more than if I wasn't back there running that. So that's kind of nice in a way. Mm-hmm.
Well, I just sit in the pew. I don't have anything. Just kidding.
Just sit in the pew.
But for me, sometimes it's like I'll start getting focused, and then if it's a short prayer, then there's somebody standing there ready to hand you something. Then you get distracted and then kind of forget, for me anyway, where your thoughts were going. So then you have to start all over again.
Well, what do y'all have any special things you do during the Lord's Supper to focus or to help focus?
I normally say my own prayer.
Good. Yeah, that works.
That way I'm not just following along with like the words being said, that I'm actually thinking about it.
Right. What about you?
No, I just pay attention to what's going on. I mean, here when we come to that part of the service, we have one person that goes up to the podium or whatever. And if we are if we were in regular services now, then you would have, I don't know, I think there's like 8 guys that serve, but there's one person presiding, and they will have really a little devotional. It ain't like they just get up and say, okay, let's pray. They read some scripture and say a few things, and it's drawn out a little bit
So you
more
take a little more
than
time
other
then.
places that I've seen.
Right.
So if you can, I mean, obviously I just pay attention to what they're saying,
Right.
and
Don
go with
does a
it
good
that
job
way.
of that at Banner Elk when he leads. Yeah, he always gets up, and he's like the master illustrator. So when he starts,
Yeah.
he pulls some story, and it's going to tie back, but he always makes it real personal, and you go, oh, that's great. Like I get sermon ideas from listening to him talk, but yeah, I've used prayer. I've used Isaiah 53 and read as well. Do the songs help y'all? Like most everybody sings a song before to help. Do they help at all? No.
No, not necessarily.
Not
no.
to pull like my focus.
Yeah.
Per se.
That's one that's hard too, I think, is focusing on what you're singing. Because we've been singing the same songs our whole life. And I'll be singing a song at times and be like, I never knew it said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
For instance, like,
yeah.
and we're talking about focus. I don't want to get away from that. But like, if you're focused on what you're singing and you sing a song like, To Canaan's Land, I'm on my way, which is basically saying what?
On your way to heaven. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you better have it right. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
you better be living right, and because you're telling everybody I'm going to heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and then walk out and be like, well, I ain't too sure. You just sang it. So anyway, it goes back to that focus thing as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was the problem here. I think. What should we do? Should we read this, or should I read this?
Yeah. I mean, if it shouldn't take too long to read through that.
All right, I'll do the.
Make more sense.
Maggie's a good reader. You want to do it? Or you want me to? Okay. Matthew 14, then 22 through 33. If you guys are following along with us, and this is the English Standard Version. That's what you guys are using too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Immediately he made the disciples, as Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side. When he dismissed the crowds, and after he had dismissed the crowds, or while he dismissed the crowds, let me go back. While he dismissed the crowds, after he had done so, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat by this time was a long way off from land, beaten by the waves. The wind was against them. And in the 4th watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, which I would be too, and said, it's a ghost. And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid. And Peter answered him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. He said, come. So Peter got out of the boat, walked on the water, and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, O you little faith, why did you doubt? And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. Problem, solution. I think that would be the biggest insult for me, is to hear Jesus say, you a little faith.
That's what I was just thinking. I can't imagine how small he felt in that moment.
Mm-hmm. But you can understand.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, the storm is still going on while Peter, so you're not only walking on water, but you're walking on water toward Jesus, so you still freaked out about being a ghost, and you're doing it in the middle of a storm.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to be that guy like, Peter, what a slacker.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing a pretty amazing thing. I mean, you figure a storm in a sea, you're probably walking up and down these huge swells, right?
If that's true, not just
it's not
pool
level.
water.
Yeah, it's not a lot of wind on flat water. You're still walking up and down and just waves and stuff everywhere. Yeah, so that's one thing. Because at some point you're looking ahead and now there's just a wall of water in front of you. You got to walk up that. That kind of thing. And you're not sure what you're walking toward necessarily.
It's one of those stories that we've probably heard our whole lives, but you can pull so much out of. I was looking at some of the main things to take away from it. How do I getting into the story maybe a little more? Maybe we should do that before we start getting to lessons. Anything else jump out to either one of you guys when you read this?
That was some of the biggest things for me was just the obstacles that he had to overcome just to get out there, with, again, the waves and the wind, and he's probably, at that point too, he's not like holding hands with Jesus. He's on his own, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Walking
It's
toward him.
Yeah, walking toward him. So there's nothing to hang on to, and you're not sure, how in the world am I staying on this water, and that kind of thing. So that's some pretty amazing obstacles to overcome just to get out there.
Well, and to me, it was like, it made me think about how easy it is to be distracted. Like, you have to know how focused he was just to get out of the boat and start walking. Like, to climb out of a moving boat onto these big swells and to start walking, and then how easily he was just distracted and then realized, oh, wait, I'm in the middle of the ocean on water.
That's what, like, some of the pictures, the pardon my little rant on VBS material here, but like the depictions of stuff like this, where they're like in a rowboat, and he just steps off the boat in the water. You don't know if he had to climb down, how big this boat is, and then to just step on water, like you said, it was huge. It takes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot to follow Jesus and to stay focused on him now with, distractions. We could go on and on. It's not just in everyday life, but it's distractions of people who are saying that this is a waste of time. Religion is bogus. Jesus is bogus and not who he says he is. We could go on and on. So just to have faith now, like we were talking today, how difficult it is for, and I want to go into this more some other time, but how difficult it is for people, Christians, to look at Genesis 1 and 2 and go, it's exactly what happened. God spoke it into existence. It was a literal 6 days of creation. There's a lot of people that struggle with that now. So just to step out and have that faith takes a lot. And then to stay focused with everything going on around us.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I guess there's more distractions now than there ever have been with social media and smartphones and computers and all that. So it just keeps going to get harder. It's going to get harder.
It feels like that anyway.
It feels like it, yeah. Maybe it's not the case, but it feels like it.
Yeah, I can see that. The some of the main ideas that I wanted to take away from this is that Jesus was there the whole time. Like, that's the thing about God, is he's always there, always available. The only thing that changed was what? Yeah, what he was looking at, what he was paying attention to. I think that's the way it reads here. Let me get back to my microphone. How does he say it? When he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. So the assumption is that he quit looking at Jesus.
Started to pay attention to everything else going on, yeah.
Losing his faith.
The ways,
Yeah.
yeah.
When I was younger, I believe it was at camp one year. I'm a big note taker, and I wrote it in the front of my Bible, and it was, if you're looking at your relationship between you and God's far away, guess who moved? Because God is the one constant. And that stuck with me over the years, because through, like, when I look at my relationship with God, I'm like, he looks so far away sometimes. And then I'm like, well, he didn't move. You did. You're the one that changed your focus. You're the one that got distracted. And you're the only one that can fix it.
Reminds you of scriptures that talk about drawing near to God, and he will draw near to you, because he wants to be right there for us. Jesus is coming to them to save them and take care of them. Peter's actually walking out toward him. But it just reminds you, the fearful distractions are just that. And there's so much that's causing fear right now. That the trajectory of the country has a lot of our brethren in fear, what's going to happen. somebody, and I wouldn't, they may watch this video, and wouldn't want them to think that I'm degrading what they said at all. But I mentioned in a comment on Facebook that leaders have proven they're going to do what they want to do no matter what. That facts don't really matter anymore. Truth doesn't really matter. It's just, here's the agenda and we're going after it. And somebody said that ought to scare every American citizen, ought to terrify us. I can see where people feel that way, but that's the challenge. Am I looking at Jesus, or am I looking at the future of America?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking at Jesus, the future of America doesn't matter.
It doesn't. That sounds so.
It sounds horrible to some people. You're like, you don't care about America.
Yeah. Like, are you just dismissive? Or like you have a defeatist attitude?
No, I just have a focus on something beyond this world.
Yeah. Everybody seems to be talking about the storm instead of about Jesus, the solution. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Look how bad the storm is. Look how big the waves are.
Right.
I wonder what the other disciples were thinking. Like, none of them said, can we come see you? You go, Peter. We ain't getting out this boat
from here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing in the world. Step out in the middle of all this. It's what's behind all this is the devil. As much as he can get us to look away from God, what my problems are. And that's the thing too, the parallel. Peter started thinking about what could happen. I could sink. This thing could kill me. I could drown. We do that. What if I get COVID? What if my family member gets COVID? What if we're all stuck in the same problem through 2021 as we were last year?
That's easy to fall into. That's for sure.
I'm like one of the world's worst, probably at that.
At what?
At what ifing the whole situation. And every time I bring it up, Evan's like, well, that doesn't matter. And I'm like, what do you mean? But he reminds me every time that right now is what matters, not what could happen in the future. Focus on now. And it's hard to do, but at the same time, the closer you are to God, the easier it is. I feel like that's like a life motto. I was talking to a guy today in the store, and we had mentioned that I'm getting married in November, and he was like, well, the only thing you need is the Lord. He was like, and you'll have a fantastic marriage. He was like, just put God first. I was like, yes, sir. I said, when I was younger, my grandma used to tell me, as long as you've got God, the rest is gravy. And I was like,
right. I didn't know me and your grandma use the same phrase. I've said that for years, and I heard it from somebody else, of course. But yeah, it's all gravy. That's good. But yeah, I don't. Do you do that much forecasting?
Oh yeah. I mean, I worry quite a lot.
They're right.
Yeah. Just sometimes about the future, but a lot of times it's even just right now. Just worrying about what's going on or what I've got to do. I've got this coming up or whatever it is. And I'm thinking about all of the scenarios of bad things that could come of it. Right? Every single one of them.
All the hundreds and thousands of possibilities flooding in my mind.
Yeah. And so it really, it's a killer. It really is. And it's, in my mind, it's really hard to get over. It's hard to stop doing that.
Absolutely.
And it's, unfortunately, it has, I would say that probably took away 20 years of my life. I woke up 2 or 3 years ago. Seemed like I woke up. I was awake, but it just kind of hit me. I'm like, where did the last 20 years go? I don't know. I have no clue of the last 20 years. And it's just because I know what it is. It's because I'm thinking I got to go to work. I got all these bills to pay. I've got to take care of my family and do this and do that and whatever. And I really wasn't letting all that go and staying in that moment and kind of enjoying where I was at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
being present.
Yeah. And it totally took away that 20 years. I mean, I can if I sit and think really hard, I can come up with little things, along the way. But
right.
For the majority of it, it's just just kind of a blur because I wasn't there necessarily.
Kind of made you robotic.
Mm-hmm. Very
It's
robotic.
interesting how that relates to the account too, because had Peter thought about the steps he'd already taken and appreciated what had already happened, you know what I'm saying? Which is what you're talking about, instead of thinking about what could happen, what has happened. Look at all these steps I've already taken. Look what's already happened. I've already walked on water. You know, the one thing I don't want this to come across as, because I know people who tend to be worried to hear a podcast like this and say, all they're doing is just telling us to have more faith and just, you should love God more. It's not that simpleton type of mentality. To worry is natural. I mean, every one of us struggle with it, some more than others. And it's not just this ho-hum, well, just love Jesus more and look at the Lord. But it does work, you know? It doesn't mean that you're never, ever going to worry again. But you get, like you said, you woke up 2 or 3 years ago, which means you're growing and getting better and not stinking like you were.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's daily thinking about trying to realize day by day where I'm at, what I'm doing, you know, that kind of thing. And I'm giving you that advice.
Yeah.
I've already given her that advice, you know.
I was sitting here thinking about that. You know, I have, for those who don't know, I have medically diagnosed anxiety. Sometimes people, I have anxiety. They're like, I have medically diagnosed anxiety. And kind of like you were saying, growing up, like, I remember like growing up, but I spent so much of my time, even now, worrying about everything that could go wrong and like picking my entire life apart. You know, I'm sitting here thinking, my oil really needs to be changed in my car. I'm like 3% left of my oil life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what if I don't get home? What if my car doesn't start when I get out to the parking lot? What if I locked my keys in my car, even though I know they're in my purse, you know? What if we get halfway home in the back road and my car just stops, you know?
And the water's right here.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. There's so many things, but that's what I'm slowly turning more to God than I think I have my whole life, more so now, especially in the past year, being cooped up. I think it made it 10 times worse. But to realize, like you said, just to live in the moment and worry about what matters right now. It's hard.
yes.
Very
Exactly.
hard.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're all going back to that gravy thing. We're all saved. So whatever happens, like, what's the worst that could happen? And I still got a great outcome. I mean, I shouldn't even say great, the perfect outcome. But that was one of our main points of focus here, too, is that moments of faithlessness happen to the strongest. I mean, would you rank Peter as one of the leaders amongst Jesus' disciples? He's the one that stepped out of the boat. We go, look how strong he is. And then we turn on him as soon as he starts saying, well, he fell apart, you know, you messed up. But it happens to the strongest of people, where you just lose focus for whatever reason. I was thinking about your wedding. And that's one of the things when we've had conversations between now and November can be really fun, or it can be really stressful. I mean, really, because if it's just, I got to get this and this and this, then you're going to get to the wedding and hopefully enjoy it. But then you could be in the middle of the wedding, like, I hope this doesn't go wrong. I hope the preacher doesn't burp.
My napkins are the right color and everybody doesn't judge me.
Hope the camera guy takes the right pictures and the DJ didn't stink it up. Or you can just enjoy it. And when stuff does go wrong, you react to it and move forward, you know?
Especially through the wedding process. Beth Cabell at work, one of the things she keeps telling me, she was like, on that day, you don't need to be worrying about anything. And I was like, that'll be so nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The last one on here, it's not, I put this down, it's not just crazy that Peter was scared. You know, I've never been in that situation. So I don't want to look at anybody else. Like, we, as older guys, we tend to do that with younger people. And then we use that phrase that older people use, well, just wait, you know,
Yeah.
Wait till you're married, wait till you have kids. You know what? I've never walked on water. How would I look at Peter and be like, how could you fall apart? Jesus standing right in front of you. I've never been in that situation. It's not crazy. So you're talking about worry. That's something that I used to battle. I've gotten a whole lot better with it. Not as much now. I can be more hopeful now. But there are other distractions for me where I'm sort of meandering through. And Kobe Bryant, I think, said, amongst many other people, but Evan's a big Kobe fan, and he said, we all make the mistake of thinking we have more time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so for me, that's one of my downfalls. I got more time. I can do this. Or
yeah, I don't. It's weird because they were just so different. I'm more of I'm actually stressed out a lot. You know, when it comes quitting time at work, I'm ready to go. I got to get home. Time is ticking away, and I don't have very much time left with going home to my family, right? Zach's 16 years old, and he's ain't many more years he's going to be at home. And, you know, when you get any younger, there's not that much more time. I got to go. You know, I'm that kind of thing. I'm basically just the opposite. There's just not enough time when it comes to certain things.
Yeah, I
like
understand
that,
exactly what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's just different strokes for different folks.
Different things. Yeah.
Have you wondered in the story about why it wasn't good enough that Jesus was walking on the water? Like, they thought they saw a ghost. Jesus says it's me. Peter's like, well, let me make sure. I think I'd have been like, cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Come on.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I was just thinking. Why would you ask Jesus, call me onto the water instead of just come a little closer? Like,
right.
you're setting
I
yourself
would
up
have
there,
been.
Val.
I would have been holding hands.
Yeah,
with him.
like, calm it down first, and then
exactly. So where are we on time?
Good, about 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yep.
Final summation. What would you say to the listener by way of encouragement?
Well, I mean, honestly, don't be afraid to get out of the boat, and don't worry about what that next step is. Just go ahead and do it. Right? There's no reason to worry about what's coming or what might happen. Just do it. Live in that moment, and we're talking within Christ, not just in the world. But and try to stay focused as best you can, and you're going to fall.
Yeah, exactly.
It is what it is.
I was thinking kind of along the same lines of being present and in the moment. The scary moments that when things don't go, and I'm trying to train myself to remember when things aren't going the way I wanted them to, the way I planned, the way I hoped, it's opportunity. It's in those moments that I get to flex my faith and grow my faith and become better. It's the down times, the easy times that are the worst on me because I relax too much. I've known this for years. I perform much better when my back is against the wall. Peter's back was against the wall. It's either sink or swim, or walk in this case. Sink or walk. But anyway, that was where I was coming from.
I think my final thoughts would be, a lot of people think that they're alone. Like, I struggle with that sometimes too.
Okay. Good.
And don't be afraid to step out of that boat, like Clayton said. Don't be afraid, because you are going to fall. But when you fall, you're not the only one falling. You're not alone. There's so many people around you to help you. And Jesus is always your constant. He's always there. He's never going to leave you or be like, well, you fell. Sorry. See you later.
Oh, you have little faith.
Yeah.
Good. Very good. I guess we'll wrap up by saying this. I wanted to mention this one more time for our listeners. If you appreciate what we're doing here, we want you to go to theaveragechristian.net / I always want to say / /Patreon. You can be a $2, $5, $10, $15, $20 missionary partner. We consider this online mission work. And so we're asking you, if you believe in what we're doing, we've heard a lot of compliments and we appreciate that. We appreciate the supporters we already have, but please consider supporting so we can do that much more with equipment and all kinds. It'll just provide more opportunities. So consider doing that. Anything else before we quit?
I don't think so.
All right.
You like what you see, like, subscribe.
There you go.
Follow along, share it with other people.
Yes, please get the word out. We appreciate it. All right. Till next time.
Thank you.